Welcome. Today, I thought I would talk to you about a book that I've been previously reading, and it is this book. If you can see it properly, it is RingFire by Beth Webb. Now, this is actually 3 books in one. It's called the Fleabag triology. Fleabag is a cat, a black cat. He's a scraggly old sort of cat. He's got 3 legs and he can talk, of course. Not all cats in this book can talk. Later on he has a wife called Tabitha, and she can't talk to humans, but he can. And they have kittens that can and can't talk to humans. But that's not what the story is mostly about. It's mostly about a thing called the RingFire, basically, gift of the fire giver. Now, until the end of this book, the fire giver is sort of like God. You don't know who they are, you don't see them or anything, you just hear people talking about them. And you think, well, is this like God? Is this something you're not sure if it exists or not? But you meet them at the end. It's basically like a old woman in a room. But we'll get to that in a minute. It starts off with this. I'm going to tell you a tiny bit about it. Not too much, because, well, in case you haven't read it yet, if you're going to read it. So, it starts off, there's this girl called Gemma. She's young. I don't know how young, I forgot. She could be 12, maybe, I'm not sure. And she's basically like a peasant girl. She works in the kitchens of this place. She's always being mistreated. And ends up having to go on a quest to take this RingFire back to the fire wielder in a place called Harflorum, which is a city. Along the way she meets a woman called Rowan de Monteland, who's a female knight. She later on becomes a princess and something else, but I'll tell you that in a minute. And then she meets a guy called Felon, which is ironic because he starts off as a thief, but he becomes king after they've defeated the evil wizard. An evil wizard who tries to take over everything and also wants the RingFire, which is just like fire that sits in the palm of the fire giver's hands and tells you whether something's good or bad, protects people from evil. You can sort of imagine it around people and it will protect them. It's very, very weird. But apart from that, it doesn't do much else. But the evil wizard wants this for himself, to harness the power of it, along with his blue evil magic. And basically, they defeat him. Gemma, Felon, and Rowan, and Fleabag the cat defeat the wizard, and Felon becomes king. The fire wielder retires or dies, I can't remember, I'm sorry. But then Gemma becomes the fire wielder, and you think, woo, happy ending. Then you get to book 2. Another evil wizard arises. It turns out it's the other evil wizard's son. I forgot to mention, another of his sons was in the first book. He died too. And then another son turns up. He tries to take the power of the RingFire from Gemma because she's tired and had enough of being fire wielder at her age, when she shouldn't have those responsibilities. I'm not sure what she does. Mostly ceremonies, I think, and holding up the fire and listening to it, and that's about it. And paperwork, but I don't know. And she goes on an adventure, and Fleabag gets people to help rescue her because she's kidnapped, and she gets stranded on an island, loses her memory. A kid tells her she's now his slave and is going to be his wife one day and do everything for him. And then the RingFire helps her. Oh, hello. Little beastie. Little Bella. But then the RingFire helps her back with a memory, and she forgives him, and her friends turn up in a boat with a ship's captain and 15 members of crew, and they all go to war against this wizard, and he's just sort of dies he gets blown up by his own powder or something like that, and a speck of his dust goes in Rowan's eyeball. And they go home, and Gemma decides to not live in the city. She's going to live in a little cottage outside near the mountains, and go back to the city when she's needed. And then roll on book 3. As you notice, I'm doing this all quickly, but if you read it for yourself, you'll know what happens. And it's a big book, so it's a lot that happens. But basically, in the third one, another wizard turns up. It's not a very powerful wizard, not entirely. And he takes Rowan back to the other wizards. She becomes Higher Chancellor of the wizards, but she wants to work for her friends, but no one trusts her because she's gone evil. And well, she's full of the evil magic, but she's not entirely evil. And basically, they're causing chaos in the university with all the evil wizards, and Fleabag's about. He gets attacked by a weird pterodactyl-like creature, but he survives, it's fine. And basically they're just spending the whole book in this place, not sure what's going on, prisoners in a room, getting to know this other wizard guy that's related to the previous wizards. Spoiler, as though I've told you some of the stories, it turns out to be a girl. His name's Kern, but he's actually a girl, but he's been brought up as a boy because his dad, he has 6 sons, but he thinks he's got 7, and he's got 3 daughters. And now the third daughter is meant to be the most powerful, but her mother was a hill person, and it explains it more in the book. But basically, people that live in the hills. So she's got the power to, if she sings or plays music, she can do magic that way by sending you to sleep, making you happy, blah blah blah, all that stuff. And she helps everyone defeat the evil wizards once and for all. And then they meet the fire giver, which is an old woman sitting in a room. And once they've all defeated the wizards, Rowan stays with her and isn't a wizard anymore, and feels like she isn't needed in her kingdom anymore. Her brother's taking care of that. And Fleabag doesn't go back home to his wife and kittens and grandkittens, because it doesn't say it, but it's a bit like dying, so he stays with the fire giver instead and sleeps by the fire. It's all kind of sad, a little bit. But then Felon goes home, and so does Gemma, and all happy ending. Basically, that's the story. It's a lot. There's a lot more detail in the book. It's a lot better than how I've described it. But the cat's probably the best character. He's very sarcastic, and definitely what a cat's like. You know, eats lots of food, sleeps. As I said, sarcastic. They're all a little bit mean to each other. They call each other like you filthy scoundrel or something like that. They all take the mickey out of each other, but it's a good book. No one's particularly horrible to each other. Even the bad wizards aren't that evil, but they all blow themselves up, basically. I would recommend it, even if you only read it once. It's not bad. The reason I don't entirely remember the first book was because I read it a few years ago, and I accidentally forgot about it because I bought new books, and I went off to read those books, and I forgot that I was reading this book. And then recently it fell out of the bookshelf at me, and I thought, oh, I'm going to finish reading it. Have any of you ever read this book before? Show it again. If you have, tell me about it in the comments. Otherwise, I would recommend it, like I said, at least once, even if you never read it again afterwards. So, that's what I've just been reading. I've now moved on to Silmarillion by Tolkien. If you've read this book before, leave a comment below and tell me what you thought about it. Did you like it? Or are you planning on reading it? And I will see you later. Bye!